Welcome to Spooky Ass Shit. I am your host, Eric Dwinells. And with me tonight, returning once again to the program, Emily Ferguson.
Well, hello there.
How are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Last week, I didn't do a show.
Yep.
Just because I didn't do a show.
It happens.
Yeah. Once in a while, even I need to take a little time off.
You've earned it.
Thank you. Just regroup a little bit. But it's good. We've got a fun topic tonight.
Definitely.
We're not going into anything, no true crime or anything like that. We're talking cartoons tonight.
Yeah.
And I was actually saving this topic for you because I knew that you would like it and be into it.
Well, I grew up loving Looney Tunes and watching like vintage cartoons constantly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tonight we're going to talk about some classic Bugs Bunny cartoons with spooky themes. But we'll get to that in a second. First, we got to take care of business as always. First of all, I want to invite you to check out the website, spookyas.com or spookyasshit.com. They both take you to the same place, and that is the show's blog page. From there, you can listen to each and every episode, even the ones that are no longer available on iTunes, the early episodes. And you can also find sometimes outtakes and YouTube videos associated with each episode, pictures. You can also find links to our social media. We are at SpookyAssShit on both Instagram and Twitter. I've been stepping up my Instagram game.
Yeah, you're posting a lot. I like that.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Yeah.
Twitter, I don't think I'll ever...
I don't think anybody cares about Twitter anymore.
I think it's kind of moved on, yeah.
It's kind of ruined.
I think unless you're like a comic
I
who's
guess.
like getting out jokes.
Oh, I don't
and
even...
trying things out, but otherwise, yeah. Or president, I guess.
Yeah, let's not even know.
And what else? Oh, Facebook. You can like us on Facebook at facebook.com/spookyas.
Prudes.
Yeah, well, I could have put the whole thing in probably, but then
okay.
you can't say it in certain... This was a dumb name for a show.
Well, what are you going to do?
And nobody told me.
Here you are.
If I had known you couldn't, say it on the iTunes... Like, you can say it, obviously, but you can't write it on iTunes.
For somebody who is such a fan of George Carlin... You should have really realized.
It's now, I got into a little bit of an argument lately.
Oh?
Because we are fast approaching Halloween season.
Yeah.
And if you ask me, we are in Halloween season. And
What is it, August?
Yeah, August, 4th, 5th, something like that?
I mean, I certainly have been considering that if I'm actually going to put a costume together this year for the first time in a decade, I should start now.
If you're a real Halloween fan, this is definitely already the season.
Oh, yeah.
The pumpkin-flavored stuff is starting to come out.
Ugh.
The stores, even the grocery store, has, their Halloween candy out.
Wow, that's awesome. Ooh, I need to get there then.
Yeah. And the craft stores, not as much as I would like, but they're starting.
Yeah, craft stores always have everything a season early, though, so that's hard.
Well, they should.
Well, yeah, because you have to prepare for it.
I can't tell you the trouble I had finding a pumpkin to corpse yesterday.
Yeah.
They had them at Michael's, but they wanted $20 for me.
What?
So
Are
I'm
you
not
kidding
paying
me?
$20 for that.
Give me a break. AC Moore.
So.
They got good stuff.
They didn't have any at AC Moore.
What?
I had to go to Joann Fabrics.
Okay, that is preposterous.
Yeah.
All
they were
right.
40% off at Joann's, though.
Well, that's usually what they do.
Yeah. Everything's on sale everywhere.
Yeah.
Unless you don't check the coupons. But anyway.
Oh, I check the coupons.
This is Old Lady Talk.
Okay, yeah.
With Eric and Emily.
Moving along from arts and crafts time. Jeez.
I'm just saying, if you're out there and you're like me, which you probably are, because you're listening to the show,
right?
You know the struggle of people worrying that you're starting with your Halloween stuff too early. But you can't start too early because you have to get ready, especially if you're someone who home haunts or decorates or something like that. You've got to start now. If you don't start now, it's already too late, basically.
Oh, yeah. If you're going to special order some part of your costume, that needs to be done yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I do spooky field trips and stuff like that anyway to make my Halloween season even better.
Of course.
And I'll start doing that now.
Yeah, why not?
So.
Well, also, you tend to be really busy on the actual month. So
super busy. That's another point I mentioned.
If you're going to do stuff on your own for fun.
I kind of have to do it because I work all October.
Yeah.
In Salem, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
By the way, if you were on my Instagram, you would see that I recently got my copy of The Witches, Salem 1692, signed by the author.
That looks super cool.
Stacy Schiff. And she signed it to the Witchfinder General.
So awesome.
So, just saying, kind of a big deal.
Legit.
But and also, if you're only going to read one book, I wish I'd read that book before we'd done the episode on Salem.
Oh,
but
I know.
Hadn't. I'll probably redo an episode on Salem actually someday. Yeah, but it's a really good book, and it's not full of bullshit like a lot of books are.
Nice.
But tonight we are here to talk about old Looney Tunes cartoons,
Yay.
specifically Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
And when you think of Looney Tunes, Bugs Bunny is probably...
Oh, yeah, of course. He's the most famous. Yeah.
He's the most famous.
Far and away.
But when I was doing a little bit of research for this episode, because as much as I loved Looney Tunes and everything, I was never like Looney Tunes obsessed or anything.
Yeah, sure.
So I don't know the whole history of it, but because to me they all came out in the 80s,
Right.
I mean, obviously that's not true,
No,
but that's when I was watching them. So
yeah,
it's like,
sure.
oh, these are,
Yeah.
even though it's full of references to movie stars that I've never heard of,
Nope.
and that's something we'll go over a little bit as we talk.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a couple of references that I get now that I definitely didn't get when I was a
Oh,
kid.
yeah, me too. Oh, my gosh.
But Bugs Bunny was like a later addition to the Looney Tunes.
Mm-hmm.
Porky Pig and Daffy Duck came first.
Yep.
Maybe even Sylvester, I'm not sure. But
I don't remember.
But yeah, he was like a later addition, but he became the runaway star.
Oh, yeah. Well, he had the
And-
most personality.
Yeah, well, I would say he might be the greatest cartoon character.
Well, it's hard to argue with that because who would even be his competition?
Well,
as
some
far
people
as,
would say Mickey Mouse, but
Oh,
that's...
give me a break. No.
Mickey Mouse
No.
didn't actually make good cartoons.
No, the cartoons are fine. I mean, Betty Boop I love.
Yeah.
There are lots of other ones that are awesome, but none that have
The
persisted in the
Flintstones.
way that, yeah.
The Simpsons.
Yeah, whatever.
Homer Simpson specifically, probably.
Yeah, sure.
Homer Simpson is very funny.
Oh, don't get me wrong. There was a good decade where The Simpsons were very fun.
Yeah, I don't... Just straight up as a comic talent,
Yeah.
I don't think Mel Blanc, who does the voice of Bugs Bunny, but also pretty much
But like
every other
everybody, yeah.
character, and the character of Bugs Bunny get enough credit. The only person
God, so
who I've
funny.
heard shout out Bugs Bunny is Dave Chappelle.
What? That's it?
Yeah.
Man, he's so snarky.
As like a straight up influence. He
Yeah.
was like Bugs Bunny. Bugs Bunny,
That's
I grew up
really
watching
funny.
Bugs Bunny.
Having heard that now, I can kind of see that.
He does a lot of like the facial, like
Yeah.
the winks and the
But like side
smiles.
glance,
And,
like
yeah. He
oh,
did
it's
that
really
a lot on
funny.
his show.
Awesome. Good for him.
Yeah. But I mean, what a talent, Mel Blanc.
Oh my
I'm
God.
not breaking any new ground saying
No,
that.
of course,
but,
obviously.
when you watch these cartoons, you really appreciate like his timing, and
Oh man.
he's again, considering he's doing like basically all the characters
Right.
on everything. He's just so spot on,
Yeah.
and like just I don't know, he's head and shoulders above everybody as far as I can tell.
Totally.
So that's my little shout out to Mel Blanc.
Oh yeah, for real.
Now, like I said, we are concentrating on the spooky episodes.
Spooky themed episodes. Yeah.
Now, what I did was I went through and I Google searched, and there was like a list on Reddit or somewhere
Yeah, sure.
of ones that had kind of a spooky theme to them. Also, they haven't really done a Halloween special per se, or in the classic days they didn't really do one. But they did release some like VHS tapes and DVDs.
Yeah, like compilations of ones.
Yeah, that were like, I forget what they were called, but basically Halloween kind of compilations.
Sure.
So that's where I got a lot of these from.
Right.
All the ones we're going to talk about tonight are available online. I got mine on iTunes, and they're just a couple dollars each. So if you're really interested,
Totally worth it.
there's some that are definitely worth the investment. Especially you get to keep them forever, or as long as iTunes is around anywhere.
Yeah.
Which probably isn't going anywhere
No.
just anytime too soon.
Can't imagine.
So the first one we're going to talk about is my personal favorite, probably,
Oh, sure.
of these cartoons.
Classic.
The Hair-Raising Hare
Yep.
from 1946.
This is probably the one that most people think of when they think of Bugs Bunny in a spooky episode.
Yeah.
I think.
So this, in short, the plot is that Bugs Bunny is tricked into going into a mad scientist's lab,
Mm-hmm.
and because he wants to eat him. Was that?
Well,
I'm getting confused with the other one. I know in the other one
I
he
know
wants
there's
his
so
brain.
many that are really similar. This one,
We just watched like all these in a row.
yeah,
so.
I think he wants to eat him.
Yeah, I think they wanted to make a rabbit stew or something.
Something like that.
And but Bugs, of course, is too smart for the scientist. So then the scientist unleashes his monster on him. Is that it? He just wanted to feed him to the monster? Maybe that's what it was.
Maybe.
And the monster is later to be known as Gossamer. We'll get to that.
Right.
But this is the big orange guy who at first looks like he doesn't have arms. He does.
Yep.
But when he stands still.
Super dope sneakers.
Yeah, he wears basically Chuck Taylors.
Yep.
And
he's adorable.
Yeah.
That's a really important part of this.
yeah, he's just basically a big orange thing with eyes.
Yeah.
He does have a mouth and he does have arms, but you don't see him right away.
Right.
Anyway, he chases Bugs around and, eventually Bugs escapes. The end.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's the basic plot.
Right.
Now, it opens with the scientists watching Bugs, like on this like video scope,
Yeah.
as the Macho Man would say. But I want to point out right away something, even when I was a kid, that creeped me out.
Oh, yeah.
Was before they even showed his face, the scientist's red gloves.
Yes.
Because they're shiny and kind of
Oh, yeah,
leathery
not
looking.
good.
And I was just like, I don't think I understood exactly what bothered me about it as a kid.
Yeah.
But he's wearing these red gloves and you just know, like, he's
that's
up
not
to
good.
something.
Yeah.
Like, there's something going on. Why is he wearing those gloves and why are they, like...
Well, he is
shiny?
way scarier than the robot.
Yeah.
Like, super freaky.
So the scientist, when they show him, he's basically based on Peter Lorre.
Yeah.
He was an actor with a very large body of work, but the movies I most associate him with are M, which he did back in his homeland before he moved to the U.S., and then the Maltese Falcon. But he's done a million
Well, and
things.
they also
Casablanca.
a lot of characters in Bugs Bunny and Looney Tunes are based on him. Looks
Yeah.
wise. Like he
Well,
pops up
even
a lot.
Ren from Ren and Stimpy. His
Oh, yeah,
voice
sure, right.
is based on Peter Lorre.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
if you know that voice,
Yeah.
Especially like when Ren is like talking crazy and he's like, "These hands have been good today,"
Right.
Like that kind of thing. That's a Peter Lorre
Got a
impersonation.
very distinct look.
Yeah,
sound.
and of course
Yeah.
he was kind of a weird looking guy and he had that kind of creepy voice.
Yeah, sure.
So he was in a lot of horror movies
Okay.
or, supernatural thrillers and stuff like that. So
Okay.
so that's why he ends up here being impersonated. And the cartoon character kind of looks like him, like an exaggerated version
Yeah,
of him.
sure.
And another thing was he had these big red lips,
Right.
which was also kind of creepy.
Ugh. I don't like it.
Big red lips, big red gloves. And
Yeah.
I think it was the shininess of the gloves.
Yeah, I agree. Because
Like,
they're
they
like
look-
rubber and
Yeah.
weird. Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah.
Gross. Okay, but he lures him away. Lures Bugs out of his
Rabbit
hole
hutch.
with a sexy rabbit robot,
Yes.
which
He's
is
got
a
this
surefire way to get Bugs Bunny to do
Yeah.
whatever you want.
Yeah, this mechanical lady rabbit
Yep.
that twitches its tail
Uh-huh.
as it walks.
Yep. And a
And
cute little dress.
yeah, Bug sees it and he chases it.
Yep.
And now this is one of the things that I didn't get when I was a kid. That walk that he does. That's a Groucho Marx thing.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
When
okay.
he leans forward.
Another thing that they
Yeah.
pull from a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So he walks like that a couple times
Yes.
in the show. But that's the thing. Like I'm watching these and I'm like, man, these are just the ones that I get now. But
Right.
imagine how many I like are just completely lost on me.
Oh, yeah,
because
sure, because you don't know the references.
I'm not 100 years old.
Right. Yep. Okay,
Oh.
so lures him in,
Oh,
unleashes the monster.
you know what else
something
I forgot?
What?
The title card. The title card to this one is like two eyes set back, glowing eyes,
Oh,
and then the hands
yeah.
reaching out with the nails and everything. The
Ew.
title card is scary.
Freaky, yeah.
It's the only one that has a really good title card.
Yeah,
of the
I
ones we
didn't notice
watched
the others.
today.
Yeah.
But yes, this I think, especially early on in the Looney Tunes cartoons, there was a lot of attention to details like that, and it just makes that's why I
Yeah.
think like all these things together are why this is like my favorite one.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Well, this is the earliest one of the ones we're talking about
Yeah.
today, right? Yeah.
yeah. Oh, he does. Bugs Bunny also does like a Jack Benny kind of thing at one point too.
Who's that? I don't know who that is.
He's an old time comic and
Okay.
TV show host, and
Oh, okay.
but just these like old time comic references
So
and stuff
much.
like that,
Yeah.
And so so he lures him in,
Right.
and one of my favorite lines is because the doctor like sees Bugs Bunny come in following the mechanical lady.
Right.
And the doctor's like, "Ha, I've got him now." And then he locks the door and like bolts it and everything.
Right.
And Bugs Bunny comes back on screen and says, "You didn't have to lock the door, Doc.
Oh yeah.
I'm not going anywhere."
Leave. Yeah.
Because, I mean, the subtext of that is because I'm horny and I'm gonna fuck this
and I'm
robot.
chasing this robot. Yeah. Oh, and let's also not forget that on the outside in neon flashing lights of Castle, it says evil scientist.
Is that this one or the?
That's this one.
Oh, okay, I thought that was the other one.
I think it does in the other one also, but the
Okay.
other one is very reminiscent of this one. But
Yeah,
anyway.
well, there's a kind of a
There's a lot of
sequel
themes.
or a remake of this one. We'll get to in a bit, but
Okay, well anyway.
so at this point, so Bugs goes to kiss the robot and it falls apart.
Right.
And that's the trouble with dames. As Bug tells us.
Yep.
And the voice of
Kiss 'em and
Bugs,
they
by
fall
the
apart.
way, like you said, Mel Blanc, but he got that voice because he wanted this to be like a street tough kind of character.
Right.
So that's why he was like, I'm going to give him like a really thick kind of New York,
Yeah, right.
Bronx, Brooklyn accent. Just a little tidbit that I learned today. So the scientist unleashes the monster.
Yep.
Which at this point, and in the whole cartoon, he doesn't have a name.
Yeah.
Except at one point, not that this is supposed to be his name. I think he's just saying like a creep, basically. But Bugs does call him Dracula at one point.
Right.
But he unleashes the monster, and it's the big orange Gossamer, as we know him now. That's what he's commonly referred to as, which is kind of strange, which we'll get into later.
Yeah.
But, no name in this particular cartoon.
Just monster. Says so on his door.
Just monster. And basically, it's just kind of like a chase from there on out.
Yep.
But very famous scene that pops up.
Yeah.
Bugs is always trying to outsmart whoever he's playing against and coming up with disguises and whatnot.
Sure.
So in this one, he takes on the persona of a beauty shop.
Of a manicurist. Basically.
Sure. That's the word
a
I was
nail
looking for.
technician.
Yeah. And it's really funny.
It is.
And classic.
Yep.
Today, I'm sure they'd get letters about it, and
Oh yeah, rightfully so. It's a little off.
Well, but I don't know though, because is he pretending to be a woman, or is he pretending to be an effeminate man?
I think he's actually pretending to be a woman.
I think so too.
Which is okay.
I think so too, because he did that a lot. Bugs Bunny was cross-dressing all the time.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Of course not. Incidentally, can I point out that one of the things that freaked me out about the monster, the only thing that freaked me out about the monster when I was little, is its nails. His yellow nails with black.
Well, as Bugs pointed out.
Right.
Look at your nails.
Look at your nails. Yep. That I didn't like. Everything else is adorable. That freaked me out.
Yeah. This is where he gets into the whole conversation about how monsters are such interesting people.
Everybody's so interesting.
Yeah. And basically it's all just a trick to trap the monster, and he's like, okay, let's put your nails in the water.
Yeah.
And then there's
mouse
traps that hit him in the hand.
Yeah.
But that's what the whole scene is building up to, but it's mostly just Bugs doing that voice and, oh, you're so interesting. All these,
and that the monster is super flattered by this attention too,
yeah,
which I think is so sweet.
Monster's
so
like,
sad.
Oh yeah, let's do my nails. Yeah.
Okay, so he fixes his nails, and then, they're like creeping around and kind of doing this cat and mouse thing, and there's eyes moving in a painting because the monster is hiding behind the painting.
Classic.
I don't like that. That always freaked me out as a kid.
It's
Whenever any cartoon has the eyes moving in the painting, I did not like that, and it still kind of creeps me out a little bit.
But Bugs had a good solution to that. He just poked it right in the eye.
Yeah, poked the painting in the eyes. Awesome.
It's like, yeah, why didn't anyone else think to do that? But
Seriously.
see, that's another thing that sets Bugs Bunny apart from other cartoons, because most cartoons, the main character is like a goof who gets themselves into trouble. I mean, Bugs sometimes walks into trouble of his own accord, but he's never like goofing and then like, oh, I made it worse for myself. Oh,
no,
I made it even
worse.
Like, no, he's the one.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, and he never seems overly concerned. He's just gonna sail through. He's gonna figure something out.
He'll screw up, make some crazy faces, and then like, I got this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretend to be a lamp.
Sure.
He's all good.
Oh man.
Yeah, so, he defeats the monster, finally, after several tries.
Sure.
And then, I just want to talk about the ending, because classic line at the end here.
Oh, my God.
he defeats the monster. I don't know what happens to the scientist. They just kind of...
He just isn't there anymore.
He's not in the rest of the episode,
Yeah,
and
I don't know what happens to
Bugs,
him.
starts to leave. But then the mechanical robot comes walking by again,
Right.
and he's like, "Oh, mechanical."
Hmm.
And then he waits a beat, and then he goes, "So she's mechanical," and he starts kissing her, and that's the end.
And he follows her out being mechanical.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is all right.
See, that's the other thing you don't see these days. These horny cartoons.
Yeah.
I mean, he is a rabbit.
Oh, you do. Well, yeah, fair. Yeah.
Not on like a straight up kid show though. Like this. I mean, like, if we want to go further, Pepe Le Pew was like.
Well, of course,
straight
he
up.
is the worst. Yeah, obviously.
He was a repeat sex
Dude,
offender.
he's yeah. Even when I was a kid, I was like, that's not cool. Okay. So then the next one is basically the same one again.
It's very similar, and sometimes they refer to this as a remake, and sometimes it's kind of a sequel. But this is from 1952, so less than 10 years later. But
Yeah.
I suppose long enough that the generation of children that were watching the first one
Right.
aren't watching this one. And the other thing to keep in mind is that these weren't made for television at the time. They
Right.
were made to be shorts
For
played before a movie.
movies. Right. So they'd see it and then it'd be gone.
Yeah, and they ended up on, cartoons.
Yeah. Like you don't have this on VHS
But-
then.
Yeah. So this is 1952's Water, Water, Every Hair.
Right.
And it's essentially the same story, except this time it's a different scientist, and he wants his brain to put in a giant robot, and...
Wants Bugs' brain.
yeah, Bugs' brain, and Bugs actually drifts into the castle.
Yeah, his house is flooded. His rabbit hole is flooded.
Yeah.
Which some good little gags at the start there, and then he like floats on his mattress into a spooky castle because sure.
Yeah. And then again, it's basically the same plot. The scientist unleashes Gossamer, although not known as Gossamer in this episode. This time,
Yeah, he calls
he's
him
got
some-
a name.
Yeah. What
It's
is he called?
Rudolph.
Rudolph. I couldn't hear what it was that he said. Oh wow, interesting.
Yeah, the scientist says, "Okay, Rudolph, go
Is
get that rabbit."
A
and
reference to something? Because that I don't know. Huh. All right, we'll have to look that up later.
Yeah, I mean, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Did I
Yeah,
just
but that
unplug
couldn't
this?
be it.
No. Okay.
Okay.
Had come out not too long before that, but I don't imagine that that's what they were going for.
Right. Well, anyway, the gags in this one are different, although he does pull out the same character again.
Same character, but different
But-
job. He's doing hair now.
Now he's doing hair. Love this part.
Yeah.
Just-
I actually like this version of it better than the first.
Yeah, I
like
agree.
the first cartoon better overall,
Yes.
but I like this version of it better.
Agreed.
Monsters must live such interesting lives.
Also, there's something very appealing about the aesthetic of him doing the monster's hair, doing
Yeah.
Rudolph's hair. It's,
and the bobby pins, like
Yeah.
everything is just played so well.
It is.
And the monster, like you thought he looked happy to
Oh,
get his
man.
nails done, to get his
Loving
hair
it.
done.
Loving it.
Yeah.
He's delighted with how pretty he looks. Just
Yeah.
really cute.
But of course, again, it's all just a ploy,
Yep.
and Bugs is doing it to wrap dynamite into the monster's hair, which he then
I
ignites.
feel so bad for the monster at this point. I really want him to win.
Yeah.
Oh well. Oh, and then so then there's the laboratory scene where he's got all the different potions to.
Right.
So first he disappeared. First, Bugs makes himself disappear with vanishing. What is it? Vanishing oil or vanishing?
Whatever.
Ah, crap.
Potion, oil.
It was funny though. And then and then he shrinks the monster.
He shrinks
That's
Rudolph.
awesome.
And then Rudolph disappears off screen, and he comes back with a hat and a jacket
Just
and a suitcase and kicks a mouse out of his mouse hole
right,
and closes the door and hangs up a sign that says "I quit."
which is awesome.
Yes, but then the mouse is just sitting on his ass.
Oh yeah.
And he goes, "I quit too." And then he throws down a bottle of liquor.
Liquor or poison or something. Yeah. I was like, what the hell? Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe he quit drinking because
I think
of it?
that's what it
Is that what it
was.
was? Okay. Yeah. That
Which
was
is a very adult joke.
pretty
for,
funny. Oh,
yeah.
there's so many of those in this though. Like
Yeah. But
that's
I mean,
kind of
again, that's something you wouldn't
that's
see in
Looney
a
Tunes thing.
kid
No.
show these days.
Nope.
Yeah.
Okay, so one thing that's awesome about when Bugs is invisible is that he starts to eat a carrot and you see it like him swallow the carrot bits and then they collect in his stomach. That was awesome. It's just like floating in midair.
Yeah, the scientist in this one isn't nearly as creepy. He's basically just a green guy with a big head, kind of like the teacher on South Park, but with a green head.
Yeah, it is like inflated head.
And he sounds, I guess you would say, kind of like Vincent Price-ish.
Yeah, he's a little the standard, Looney Tunes, Faye, bad guy kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think this one's not as good as the original overall, but I do like the
some of the bits are great, though.
hairdresser scene.
It's
and the
also,
potions are funny.
Okay, so also we have to talk about how it ends. That he spills ether.
Oh, yes.
And they both get wicked high and just float on home.
Yeah, well, the scientist just gives up.
Yeah, he's
going to go to sleep.
I'm going to take a nap. They do
Bugs
first like a little
floats.
slow motion chase, and then Bugs like floats himself home.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
So that's the end of that. Now, this Gossamer, he wouldn't appear in a cartoon again until the 80s.
Oh, wow.
So he had those 2 shots, and that was it.
I'm surprised they didn't bring him back more, because he's awesome.
Yeah, well, he's back now and stuff, I guess.
Okay.
I don't watch. So first of all, he got the name because he next appeared in a Duck Dodgers cartoon, actually.
Okay.
And then he was known as Gossamer, even in the cartoon.
Okay.
And they said that they chose that name for him because it's the opposite of what he is. Gossamer
It's like
is
delicate and fragile.
Right.
Fiber.
Fabric.
Yeah, sure.
And he's supposed to be this big destructive oaf, basically.
Oh, okay. That's funny, though, because when I hear him referred to as Gossamer, I always just think it means that he's really soft. But, like, his big furry fur is all soft.
Yeah, well, so now, I guess in the new, like, Looney Tunes cartoons, which I haven't seen.
No, I didn't either.
But apparently he is, like, a lovable character. Like, straight up. Like, he's not chasing, he's, like, this, like, kind-hearted, childish character.
That's odd.
And on the Wikipedia, it also mentions that Witch Hazel is his mother. I don't know if that's something that's come up in the new ones or what, because it definitely isn't alluded to in these old cartoons at all.
Meh. Yeah.
So.
All right.
That's the end of that chapter.
Okay.
Next, from 1954.
Oh, my.
We have Bewitched Bunny.
Interesting one.
Yeah, this is... I mean, there's a witch in it, but otherwise, it's not that, like, spooky or anything, because it's really about fairy tales.
And it's just a standard chase one, too.
Yeah. But what's funny about it, so Bugs is reading, the story of Hansel and Gretel, and then he somehow walks into the world where it's happening.
Right.
And he sees the children, and he knows, like, oh, this isn't good. This is that witch just
They're
invited
like
them
just
into
getting
the house.
lured into the house.
But what's interesting is this is not too long after World War II.
Yeah.
Which was U.S. versus Germany and many other countries involved.
Right.
The world, hence the name.
Sure.
But I did note that the children are German, of course.
Yep.
Hansel and Gretel.
Hansel and Gretel, sure.
And blonde hair and very blue eyes.
The children are horrifying looking.
Yeah. And they have, like, these really thick accents, I say, with quotations.
Accents, yep.
Like, we.
Yeah, like almost like a
Das ist
Swedish
gut.
version
like,
of, it's like a, and they are like gluttonous and terrifying little children.
Yeah. So this is the first time we're going to see Witch Hazel in a Bugs Bunny cartoon.
Yeah.
She's been in other stuff before this, but Witch Hazel is, as her name would suggest, a witch, and she basically looks like your stereotypical idea of a witch, except she's maybe fatter than, like the Wicked Witch of the West, but she's green skin, she's got the frizzy hair.
Yep. Big crazy nose.
Yeah.
Hat, the whole thing. Pointy hat.
And, she plans to eat the children, but Bugs, sees what's happening and goes in and saves the children, and then the witch is like, oh, well, since the children are gone, I'll have to eat you.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, it becomes kind of a basic chase.
Well, I do like her recipe book. It has, among other things, in there urchin pie. And, I should have written down what the other...
Children chops.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
A lot of stuff like that. Really good
but,
puns, as usual.
Yeah. Well, again, it's the attention to details. And I even wrote down here that one of the things that I love, and I mentioned this to you privately, actually, recently, One of the things I love about Looney Tunes is just like the layouts, the backgrounds they have for like houses, where everything's a little bit off kilter and things are kind of more suggested than actually like drawn full out.
Well, this one is particularly interesting for that.
Yeah.
Because the furniture is all drawn on.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't have any furniture in her house except the stove. Everything else is, like, literally drawn
if it's not something
on.
that they use in the cartoon, they just kind of, like, outline it in the background.
Not even just that. Like, if you look at it in this one, it's that it looks as if she, the witch, in the story, has painted on things on her wall. Because they, like, go up the wall and over angles, or like down the wall and like angle at the floor. But they kind of do that
anyway, though, like even in the regular cartoons.
Sort of, yeah. This one was particularly standout, though.
Yeah. But again, just...
Oh, yeah.
There's many reasons why Looney Tunes are great, but that's one of them.
For sure.
Oh, so she poisons Bugs Bunny with a poison carrot.
Right.
Which puts him to sleep.
Yeah.
And he's like in the pot, and then she's like, oh, I gotta go get my like bunny spices. So she goes down to the basement. And then Prince Charming comes in.
Yeah.
And he kisses Bugs' hand. And that wakes Bugs up. And he says, oh, thanks for waking me up and everything, but you're in the wrong story. You want Sleeping Beauty or whatever.
I think he said Snow White, yeah.
Yeah. And this is Hansel and Gretel.
He's like...
This is
Hansel. He's like, yeah, is this Hansel and Gretel? Mm-hmm.
And then the guy just keeps saying, Hansel. And he just keeps saying it.
Yeah.
So now to our modern ears, we may be like, that was weird. Why did they just do that? Well, Hunt's Hall was an entertainer back in the day. So that's another one of those references that, like...
Didn't get that.
Modern ears, like, are just like, that was weird.
Yeah.
But...
That's why. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to know that, because that was weird.
And, again, we have some potion play here.
Yep.
And I forget, what was the potion called?
I think it was just magic potion, the one in the wall.
Oh,
the break in case. Yeah, it was just magic potion because we didn't know what it was going to do.
Yeah, so there was like a break in case of emergency kind of thing, and it was just a magic potion.
Yep.
And he throws it on the witch.
Yep.
The witch turns into a beautiful female bunny.
Yep.
And she's like, "Hey, sailor, how you doing?" And then Bugs goes over and kisses her, and he looks at the camera.
Yep.
And he says, "Yeah, I know. But aren't they all witches inside?"
Oh my god. Da, 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 da. Like, oh my god.
That's a good joke.
That is pretty good.
I mean, you would definitely get letters and boycotted today. But
whatever.
There's so many things. Like, everyone's so delicate now.
Well, there's reasons for
jokes
that.
Yes, I know, but jokes are jokes.
Not always.
If you can't harass people on children's cartoons...
If you can't teach children to harass women on cartoons, then what are we even doing?
All right. Yikes. Anything else to say about that one?
I do like that she has a recipe for something with centipede bunions with chives. That's pretty good. It's part of her thing. And then also that whenever she runs, she sheds bobby pins behind her.
Yeah, I know. That's one of her character traits.
Which is really great. Yeah. I thought that was awesome.
Well, we learn in a later episode, which we'll talk about, that she spends a lot of time undoing her hair.
Yeah, she's very concerned.
So I guess she's got to hold it in the wrong places with her bobby pins.
Very concerned with her looks, but not as you'd think.
Yeah. So that's it about that one?
Yeah, I guess.
All right, moving along. Oh, I actually went out of order a little bit here by accident.
Oh, yeah, right.
Because then we went to Transylvania 5000. Which is actually a 1963 cartoon. So that's actually the latest one that we watched.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, just for the purists out there who are wondering why. It was just a mistake, that's all.
Oops.
So, but anyway. This is, again, Bugs Bunny, in one of those infamous moments where you see him underground burrowing.
Yep.
And he runs into a pole.
Yep.
With directions on it. He realizes he's in the wrong spot. He doesn't give the wrong turn at Albuquerque.
Yep, I was waiting for it, and then but that's okay. Instead, he blames his travel agency.
Yeah.
And he has instead gone to Transylvania or something.
Something, yeah.
Yeah, there's like
some play on the title
a little
there.
of both, yeah.
And he's like, oh, well, there's a spooky old castle up there. I guess I'll see if they have a phone in that hotel.
Yeah.
And as he walks in, he meets a two-headed vulture.
Right.
And they're not that interesting, except, of course, one of them is named Agatha, and the other one is named...
Emily!
Yeah.
Yay! Just what I always wanted.
So you got a Looney Tunes for yourself there.
There we go. You got to be there somewhere.
Yeah, he gets to the castle, and he runs into Count Bloodcount.
Yeah. Count Bloodcount.
Who's basically a Dracula, like he does.
Sure.
You know, the
Dracula-ish.
stereotypical voice. So.
Right.
And
he can turn into a bat.
yeah, he's bigger.
Not voluntarily.
He kind of looks like a male version of Witch Hazel. And the episode kind of plays, except that he's a vampire, not a witch.
Right.
The episode kind of plays like that, too. Again, it's a pretty standard chase.
Yeah.
Although Bugs doesn't really realize it's a chase, or does he? We don't know, because he's so smart.
Yeah, I do like that it's a chase without him entirely understanding what's going on, sort of, or pretending to not understand.
Yeah, so he wants to use the phone, and the Count's like, oh, yeah, no problem. Here, why don't you spend the night? And Bugs is like, I just want to use the phone. He's like, yeah, but spend the night. It'll be easier for you to rest. And he puts Bugs to bed, and obviously he's going to attack him once he falls asleep.
Sure.
But Bugs can't fall asleep. He's in a strange bed, as he points out.
It's hard to fall asleep at hotels.
Yeah. So he's like, oh, maybe I'll just read one of these books here. And he finds one about magic spells.
Yep. There's books on blood types. There's books on monster parts or some shit.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah. So he's like, oh, okay, I'll read this book, and I'll go through and, you know, like, oh, there's some magical words. Yeah. And he learns abracadabra.
Yep.
And hocus pocus.
And hocus pocus. Yeah.
What he doesn't see at this time is that Count Bloodcount has come back in the form of a bat through a secret door.
Yep.
But now every time Bugs says these magic words, he transforms either from the bat to the human vampire.
Right.
Or other way around.
Yep.
And he keeps mistaking the bat for a giant mosquito, as he says, and swatting it with a fly swatter.
Yep.
And then again, it just kind of goes on this whole like chase thing until the Count catches him in a hallway and reveals that he is in fact a vampire.
Yep.
Which Bugs counters with, "Oh yeah? Well, I'm an umpire."
Yep. And then turns him into a bat, and then turns Bugs into the other kind of bat.
Yeah, a baseball bat.
Yep.
And of course he hits him, and you know,
and all this stuff, on and on and
on. And Bugs gets away.
Of course. Yeah, that one's meh.
Oh, he does. He tries different combinations of abracadabra.
Oh yeah, that was pretty funny.
And hocus pocus.
Yep. Abracapocus.
Yeah.
Hocus cadabra.
And at one point while he's doing, and the Count Bloodcount keeps changing into different things. And at one point while he's doing this, he changes into Witch Hazel.
Yep.
Actually.
Yep.
So a little
or at least
guest
the
shot.
bottom half of him.
Yeah, a little guest shot from Witch Hazel.
Yep.
Anything else to say about that particular episode?
Yeah, that one's not terribly interesting.
I did like that scene where they finally confront each other there.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Other than that, yeah, not one of my favorite ones.
Yeah, I like some of the spooky little background stuff that they've got in there. Like he happens to have a spooky TV in his spooky den.
Actually, yes, that's true. When they're giving the tour of the castle in the beginning, and they're again the animation style is so cool.
All the background drawings, amazing.
I said I mentioned this to Emily and outside of the podcast because I'm redecorating my apartment, and I was looking. It came up somewhere.
Looking for inspiration.
No, not exactly, but
a little bit.
But this, like Looney Tunes background thing, and it was just like a picture of a room, and I was like, I would love to live in this room.
That looks
That's
awesome.
So yeah,
we
anyway.
can make that happen. It'll take a little effort, but we'll get there.
All right, moving on. Jumping back in time now to 1955 with Hyde and Hare.
Oh, this is a fun one.
Now, this is obviously going to be a Jekyll and Hyde story.
Right.
Now, this is a good one, but the animation style is very different.
Oh, totally.
And I think that's kind of funny because the 1963 one is kind of similar to what came before. The one we were just talking about, Transylvania. So this is kind of like an odd duck in the middle here.
Yeah, I didn't check to see if there was any difference in the production team.
Yeah, probably.
Must be.
But it's just weird to me that it's
the same style as like a Pepe Le Pew or something. Like there's a different drawing style. I'm going to look it up. These are things we should know.
It's more rounded, I would say. Like it's more.
Yeah.
It's not as angular and off kilter and stuff. It's more rounded, more clean looking.
Yeah.
Which I don't like as much, to be honest with you.
I don't know. I have some sentimentality to it because it is like other ones that I liked.
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying.
No, I understand.
I did like in the beginning where Bugs is like, he pops his head out of his rabbit hole in the park, and he's like, "Oh, where's that little guy that always gives me carrots?" And he's like, "Oh, there he is." And he's like, "All right, time to do the old timid rabbit routine." Yeah. That part was funny. I'm not going to like bother trying to describe it exactly, but he pretends to be a little timid
acting
rabbit.
Like a bunny, which is wrong, which is great.
Yeah, just trying to like warm up and get a carrot.
Hop on all fours and be scared and
But then he decides like, fuck that shit.
Yep.
And he's like, he jumps up into the guy's lap, and he's like, "Hey, why do we have to go through this routine every time? Right. Like, you like giving me like carrots. I like getting carrots.
Yeah.
Why don't you take me home? I'll be your pet, and you can feed me carrots in bed."
There we go.
Which, I mean, sounds a little weird.
Oh, it's okay. Yep.
But I guess he just meant it would be convenient for you. Like, you can, it's so
then
easy you can do it from your bed.
Get out of bed. You can just
I don't think
feed
he
me carrots.
meant like.
Probably not.
Although, who knows? Bugs is into some things.
That's true.
And that's fine.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
But this, of course, turns out to be, the man agrees, but this turns out to be Dr. Jekyll.
Of course.
Dr. Jekyll, technically, but we'll say Jekyll because that's how everyone says it. That's how you're supposed to say it. Dr.
The
Jekyll.
hell you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck that.
That's why you wrote it there. Anyway. Lucha Libre implosion? That can't be right.
Who's a what now?
Oh, nope. Liberace impression is what I wrote.
Oh, Liberace impression. Yes.
Yes. Not Lucha Libre implosion.
Although that's also awesome. And also very much something that Bugs would do.
Could happen.
Yep.
He's fighting the masked marvel or something.
Okay, so yes, he impersonates Liberace.
Yeah,
of course.
It's just a brief moment.
He sits down at a piano.
He sees the piano. He's checking out his new digs. He's like, "Oh, this is great." And he's, but it is kind of weird when he turns to the camera and like uses a completely different voice. He's doing Liberace.
Sure.
He puts a candelabra on the piano, of course, and everything.
Yep. And then he plays some Chopin.
Yeah.
Very nicely. Chopin, as he says. Yeah.
Meanwhile, the doctor's like, "Oh, I'll see if I can find you a carrot." And he goes into the laboratory and he sees the potion. He's like, "Oh, I'm not going to drink that potion."
Yeah.
But then he's like, "You know what? I am going to drink it."
He does.
And we don't really know why.
Weak.
Must taste good. He says he's weak, but I don't know why.
I don't know. He's just compelled to drink the potion.
So he drinks the potion, and of course he turns into Mr. Hyde.
Yep.
Who's big, green, scary
long
monster
arms,
guy.
like hairy arms. Yeah.
And
red eyes.
Again, this is where it becomes kind of a chase deal.
Yeah. But it's fun because it goes back and forth, and he kind of changes back and forth every minute or so.
I was trying to see if there was like a trigger word.
Yeah, I don't think there was.
No, I don't think so either. Because I thought at first, I'm like, maybe he has to say doctor so many times,
right?
Or
he's but has to be agitated in some way or something. But no, he just kind of goes back and forth.
Every couple of seconds he changes.
Yes. And so the gag is that Bugs doesn't know.
Right.
That he's both.
And when he's Dr. Jekyll, he's like trying to help Bugs. And like, "Oh dear, I hope he didn't,
blah,
blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then there's one point where he hands him a shotgun. He's like, "Here, you hold you cover me while I block the door." And Bugs is like, nailing the door shut. And then the doctor's like, "Oh dear, I wish he hadn't given me this." And then, of course, he transforms into the monster with a shotgun.
Yep.
I don't have much more to say about the episode. I just said I think there's a lot of missed opportunities here. Bugs eventually decides to leave.
Right.
And not before he drinks the potion.
Right.
Of course, he denies drinking the potion at all.
Right.
And that's why he's leaving ostensibly. He's like, "I'm not going to stand here and be accused. I'm going to go back to the park where my integrity is unquestioned." And then he goes to the park and he transforms into the monster, and these old ladies run away. But again, I think what sets this one apart from the first from Hair Raising Hare.
Yeah.
I think in Hair Raising Hare there wasn't like a moment wasted.
Yeah.
I felt like they got like all the gags they could have.
Yep, that's for sure.
I think there was many moments in this one where it was like they could have done something there.
Yeah.
And one example of this that I thought of was when he went to the park and scared the old people on the bench.
Right.
They like screamed, but it wasn't like a big dramatic like, "Oh, jump out of their seat, freeze in midair," and like it was just they like got up and ran.
Yeah.
And I was like, that seems like something in a Looney Tunes cartoon where they would make more of that moment.
Yeah, this one was a little more subdued just generally. Like a lot less of the crazy facial expressions, a lot less. So I'm interested to see who the director of this one was or the animators, because this is definitely a different style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not as impressed with this one. Don't get me wrong, folks. These are all like
fabulous.
pretty good cartoons.
Yes.
But to me, the
fun.
Hair Raising Hare is
Yeah.
top notch. Finally, the one we're going to talk about today, the last one, is 1956 Broomstick Bunny. Now, it's appropriate this is the last one because this is the only actual Halloween episode on here.
I wondered about that. Okay. Because it is a Halloween one. Yeah, that's true. I forgot.
It's literally Halloween in the setting of this
It starts out with
cartoon.
trick-or-treating.
Yeah.
That's right.
And we're back with Witch Hazel.
Yep.
And this time we're in her awesome house.
Yeah.
With her drawn furniture.
Yep.
Still.
And her plaque declaring that she is part of the Malevolent Order of Witches.
Yes.
Which I like.
Yeah. And she also has a magic mirror in this one.
No. Which is super racially sensitive. Oh
yes.
my God.
She talks to her magic mirror. Says, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the ugliest witch of all?
Mm-hmm.
And the mirror, says very fancily that it's her.
Yep.
And she's very proud
Delighted.
of this.
Mm-hmm.
And as Emily pointed out, the mirror is maybe a slightly insensitive depiction of a Middle Eastern person.
I'm going to say, yeah, it'd have to be. Yeah.
Yeah. I think they're going for an Arabian Nights kind of thing.
Genie. Yeah, exactly.
So she's very proud, and she's like, "Oh, I'm always so afraid I'm gonna get pretty when I turn older." And
yeah,
so
she's like, that's silly. I'm not gonna get pretty."
Yeah, very proud of her look. She actually, that's another trait that I noticed. When she makes a joke, she laughs at her own joke.
She cracks
like,
herself
every
up
time,
which is great.
Like puns or whatever.
Love it.
Just
Yep. Like twists herself into pretzels, laughing at her own jokes, which I can understand, seeing as I do that myself.
So Bugs enters.
Ooh, wait.
Picture
One
here.
last quick, quick thing. Okay, you only see her cat for a minute, but it's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see
That's
it?
a weird little,
Oh, it's so cool, and I don't know why it doesn't come around more. I was really hoping that the cat was going to be a part of the episode. It's not.
I was hoping they would at least show it again when she was walking back into the room, because they showed it when she was walking out of the room.
It's this
to go into the kitchen
really
or something.
Skinny, tall, arched back, like
it's like a Halloween cat.
Like Halloween cat. It looks very stylish.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. So Bugs is trick or treating.
So Bugs comes trick or treating, and he's dressed as a witch.
Yep.
He's wearing a mask and everything.
Green mask, the whole thing with the hat, and
And rings the doorbell. Witch Hazel opens the door, and she mistakes him for an actual witch.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, "Oh, company, this is lovely. I've never seen her at the union meetings before, but
union meetings.
Come on in. Let's have some dinner." And then she was like, "Oh, your hair is so terrible. Who undoes it for you?"
Yep.
And then she's like, "Wait a minute." And she goes to the magic mirror, and she's like, "Magic mirror, who's the ugliest witch of all?" And the mirror's like, "Well, it used to be you, but now that one's real ugly."
Yep.
And so now, of course, Witch Hazel is pissed off.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna deal with this witch." And a bunch of things happen.
Well, she goes and makes a pretty potion and serves it up in tea.
Yes.
Right? So she pours the tea, but in order to get to the tea, then Bugs has to take off his mask, and then she's like, "Oh, it's a rabbit."
Yeah.
And then...
And you might think, like, oh, she's just going to call it off and let the rabbit go because now she's the ugliest again. But she checks her spell book.
Uh-huh.
And she notices that one of her spells calls for a rabbit's clavicle.
Yep. Among other things, including Toad's tonsils, which I liked.
Yeah. And she's like, "Oh, okay, well, skin this rabbit and get his clavicle."
Right.
And then, again, another
bunch of different chase stuff, fun stuff.
Yeah.
Yep. Good little gags.
The funniest thing about this one is the very end.
Oh, my God.
Where the witch drinks her own tea.
Yeah.
And becomes beautiful.
Yep. She accidentally does, because she's distraught.
Yes.
Because of her pet tarantula.
Oh, yeah,
Paul
I forgot about that
died.
part.
Yeah.
She's about to eat Bugs, and Bugs gives her the sad puppy dog eyes.
Sad puppy eyes, yep.
And then she starts to cry.
"Oh, no." It reminded me of Paul, and he's like, "Who's Paul?" She's like, "Oh, it's my pet tarantula, who apparently has passed."
Yeah. So she drinks this potion, and she becomes beautiful, which, of course, to her is terrible news.
Right.
But she's like a redhead
bombshell.
Pinup,
yeah, exactly.
Kind of look.
Yeah.
So she goes to the magic mirror, and she's like, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the ugliest witch of all?" And the mirror is like, "Damn, girl.
Yeah.
It's not you.
Yep.
I'm going to hit that."
Yep, pretty much.
And he flies out on a magic carpet.
Sure.
So the witch goes to her broom closet and
Yep.
gets a broom, and she flies off, and then he's chasing her.
Yep.
And then Bugs calls and makes a, I dream of
Calls
Genie
Nora
with a
or
light
some
brown
shit.
hair
Yeah,
kind of
right.
joke. And that's the end.
Yeah.
So that is all the ones that we watched. There are, of course, other Looney Tunes cartoons that have spooky themes.
Right.
And there's other non-Looney Tunes cartoons that have spooky themes. Maybe we'll get to those sometime.
Yeah.
But I wanted to give these particular cartoons their due because I love Looney Tunes, and I specifically love Bugs Bunny.
Oh, what's not to love?
He's a comedy influence on me and Dave Chappelle.
There you go. The greats. I'm glad we got to watch these again. They're really fun.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since I've seen these.
Like I said, they're all available on iTunes.
Yep.
And maybe other places too, but that's where I bought them.
And I think
Couple
one of them
dollars
I hadn't
each.
seen at all. It might have been the Transylvania 65000. Yeah, I don't think I'd seen that one at all. Yeah, good stuff. None of these are particularly scary.
Well, I mean, they were made for children.
But even that, like, I remember watching cartoons as a kid and having some of them be genuinely terrifying. Like, there were some, there were some of the Merry Melodies ones and some of the Silly Symphony ones that were like, either the drawing style was really scary, or, well, then there was the one we talked about briefly, the Jasper's Haunted House, which don't look that up. It's super racist and it's really awful, but it's definitely kind of creepy. But yeah, it's funny because I think the ones that usually freaked me out were not ones that were intended to be scary.
That's what I was about to say. I was like, the ones that were supposed to be spooky, I think probably they went lighter on those.
Yeah.
And there'd be something horrible in one that they didn't realize was horrible for whatever reason.
Right. A lot of the caricatures were really scary. Like a lot of the crooner ones and stuff like that.
They just,
or like the Dick
suddenly
Tracy ones.
Well, Dick Tracy was kind of meant
Well,
to
that
be
was always
way.
freaky anyway. But still,
But
like a lot of those. Or the ones where like Bugs was being a Dick Tracy kind of character. Like the bad guys they'd have would be really spooky and, shaped weird and stuff like that. So yeah. No, it's funny.
All right. So once again, I just want to mention everyone, check out the website, spookyas.com. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/spookyas. And don't forget to share the show with all your spooky friends. We are, according to me, officially in Halloween season.
Yes.
So now is a perfect time for the show.
Definitely.
And don't forget to write a nice review on iTunes or wherever you happen to listen from. I shouldn't say iTunes. It's not iTunes anymore. It's Apple Podcasts.
Oh, really?
They are separate things. Like
The hell you say? I didn't even know that.
You can't get on your computer. It
Oh,
doesn't
yeah,
really
on
make
your
a
computer you
difference.
can. Yeah,
but on
yeah.
your phone, you have to type the podcast
Right.
app, not the iTunes
Not
app.
the iTunes app. That's right.
It won't come up.
Yeah.
So,
All right. Fine.
Apple Podcasts.
I think people know.
All right. Very good. So thank you, Emily.
Thanks for having me. This is fun.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah.
And until next time, don't be afraid, Doc.